So we talked about the different types of mutations. We said there was an addition mutation. That was when an extra base pair got added in the DNA. That was a bad one. A substitution mutation usually ended up being not too bad because depending on where it occurred in the chain, the rest of the chain still worked out okay. Or a deletion mutation, that was also bad. We talked about sickle cell anemia. We talked about the Kermode white bear, the spirit bear. So we talked about what we called positive mutations. We said there are some people, very few people, who have a mutation that apparently makes them immune to HIV. That's probably good. We talked about negative mutations, sickle cell anemia, cystic fibrosis. And then we talked about neutral mutations. Then we started talking about, and this is going to be what we're going to be spending the most time on for the next couple of days, the stages of a cell. So all the cells in your body, we said your body is constantly replacing the cells. They slough off, they die, they get used up. We said there was 3 stages. And Danielle and Sierra, this is the new part, and there's a diagram you can fill in later, but for all of you, this is going to be a test question right here. This is going to be a written question. What are the 3 stages? Interphase, mitosis, and cytokinesis. Interphase, cells doing its thing. In fact, there are 3 main things going on in interphase. Number 1, the cell is doing its job. Stomach acid cells are making stomach acid. A heart cell is doing the heart muscly thing. The cell is doing its job. Number 2, it's growing, almost doubles in size. Number 3, end of interphase, it replicates the DNA because we need 2 complete sets of DNA to move off into 2 separate cells, into 2 separate nucleuses. Can I say nuclei, the plural of nucleuses? Because that's what it is, okay? The second stage, mitosis, that's the process that leads all the way up to just before the cell splitting. And the third stage, cytokinesis, is the actual cell splitting. In fact, we gave you a lovely picture here. You guys can fill the picture in later, but the idea, the fact that this was interphase, that this was the longest section, that's why it took up so much of the circle. Mitosis is everything that happens right before the split. Cytokinesis is the split. So we said interphase was the longest stage, mitosis was very short, cytokinesis was very short, it was the actual division, and then we started to go into more detail. So we said interphase, in fact I think I have it, right, oh, no, not yet. Mitosis, the tricky stage. Interphase, 3 things going on. We said for interphase, 3 main things go on. Grows, cell does its job. You can also say it makes extra copies of organelles, but really the other big one is it duplicates the DNA. We left off looking at mitosis. Mitosis has 4 stages. You're going to have to memorize these 4 stages. In fact, this is going to be a test question. I'll tell you a question that's going to be on your test right now. It's explain the 4 stages of mitosis. Okay? Here we go. We did a little picture. We put them in order. We started out, I think this is where we left off. We said the first one is called prophase. How do you remember this is the first one? Listen closely. In prophase, you're preparing to divide. Prophase, prepare. Prophase, prepare. Okay? That's how I remember it. PR. What is prophase? By this time, we've already duplicated the chromosomes. And at the beginning of prophase, the chromosomes condense into those classic little bow tie shapes. And then they get attached to these spindle fibers. I have a lovely animated video to show you that, but I'll show you that Tuesday. I think we watched that video. In fact, I think where we really was, I gave you a picture. We said here was an early prophase stage, here was a late prophase stage, and you can see in these cells the DNA is still all spaghettified, all scattered out because it's still being used, it's still being copied, it's still being used to make proteins. But when the cell gets ready to divide, it clumps the DNA up. It basically almost like coiling up a cable, like a power cord when you're getting ready to move it to somewhere else. You wrap everything all up nice and tight. Metaphase begins with an M. In metaphase, the chromosomes line up in the middle of the cell. I think we wrote that little bit down. Looking through a microscope and you saw a cell that looked like that. And I'll show you actual pictures as part of your homework today. As part of your homework today, you're going to get a bunch of pictures of a cell slide, and you're going to have to identify which of the cells are in which of these different stages. Okay? You can kind of see there a big clump of things in the middle. Anaphase, I think this is where we start to write. The third stage. In anaphase, the chromosomes move away apart. You figured out where we all are? Okay in the notes, yes? Evan, you got it okay? Or are you still kind of, yeah, okay. So how do I remember anaphase? Away apart. Anaphase, letter A, away apart. My metaphase, middle. Chromosomes are in the middle. Prophase, preparing to divide. Thank you. I got cool videos of all of these, but we're going to get to them later. Okay. So anaphase, away apart. You made it? Got a note? Yeah. Okay. We're continuing from where we left off last day. Prophase, preparing to divide. Metaphase. Metaphase, lining up in the middle. Anaphase, chromosomes get moved away apart. Kind of like that. And what you now have, Matt, is a complete set of DNA here and a completely identical set of DNA there. You now have, Grace, the makings of 2 new nuclei. That's why we need to do this. Looks kind of like that. Looks kind of like that. The final stage is telophase. In telophase, starts with a T, 2 nuclei form, still 1 cell, but the cell has 2 complete nuclei in it. Tensei, you write this down? Please don't make me tell you to write this down anymore. Okay. You have 2 complete nuclei, still 1 cell. And that takes you to the end. That takes you to the end of mitosis, and then cytokinesis is where those 2 complete nuclei that are still in 1 cell completely split up into 2 cells. Would look kind of like that. You can see, Brooke, we haven't quite got 2 cells. They're still kind of connected. We're just starting to build up a cell wall or a cell membrane, and it's going to split. But you have 2 complete nuclei, identical DNA. As a picture, there you go. You can see, Ibrahim, still connected, right? But 2 separate nuclei. That there is telophase. Telophase. A few teachers have suggested memory tricks, so I've given you some based on the first letter of each word, because that's how my brain works. Or you can remember the acronym PMAT. And then I had one teacher, she always told her students the tennis pro met Anna on the telephone. The tennis pro phase, metaphase, anaphase on the telophase. Well, that doesn't quite work. Telephone. Whatever thing you come up with, you're going to have to memorize these. I wrote down here, see text page 156, 157. Later on the homework, if you want to see some lovely pictures, you can. So as a summary, we have this. Prophase, chromosomes prepare to divide. Note, chromosomes are already duplicated. In the early prophase, the chromosomes condense, the spindle fibers form. In the late prophase, chromosomes attach to spindle fibers. Metaphase, the chromosomes line up in the middle of the cell. Middle. Anaphase, chromosomes move away apart from each other. Telophase, 2 nuclei form, still 1 cell. And there's the memory trick. We think it might look actually something like, I'll show you a video if I get time in class, but I want to make sure I get the lesson done today. Okay? right here, what stage is that right there? Right there. What stage is that cell in? Anaphase. The chromosomes are moving away apart. What stage is this one right here in? Okay. This would be metaphase. See the chromosomes lined up in the middle. Lined up in the middle. Okay. Prophase would be something, this is early prophase. The chromosomes are starting to form and starting to coil together because DNA is normally so thin you can hardly see it. But Josh, you can see we're starting to clump. This is getting ready. This would be early prophase. This here, interphase. You can see the DNA is just spaghettified everywhere, all spread out. Here is also the prophase, probably the end of prophase. I'm trying to see if I can find some nice chromosomes that aren't quite in the middle. That's metaphase. This one looks like just approaching metaphase. They're just getting lined up in the middle. Can you find me telophase? Can you find me one cell with 2 nuclei? There is at least one if you look carefully. I think there's 2 actually. Whereabouts, Alex? Direction. Right there? Yeah. See it? And I think right there. 2 nuclei, but not separate cells. So if we had good microscopes and good slides, you could see something like that. The last stage, the main stages. So we said that mitosis has 4 stages, Brady. Pro, meta, ana, tele. But the 3 main stages was interphase, mitosis, which is complicated, cytokinesis. This is when the cell actually splits into 2 identical, what we call daughter cells. In an animal cell, the way it splits is the cell membrane just pinches together. Between the 2 cells, come on in. I'm just going to finish my lesson, but thank you. In between, you've got the 2 nuclei, they're spreading apart, and in between these 2 cells, it just gets narrower and narrower and narrower until it eventually just pinches off. Almost like when you're pulling apart a piece of bubble gum until it finally just gives way in the middle. In plant cells, because plant cells have cell walls, an actual plate forms between the 2 cells, and you get 2 completely new cell walls. Okay? Yeah. Okay. I do have time to show you a couple of videos, so put your pencils down.